My dear chosen one, have you ever walked into a room and felt like the air shifted the moment you arrived? Or noticed the same faces showing up in places they don't belong, again and again, watching you, but pretending not to? You brush it off. Tell yourself it's coincidence, paranoia maybe, but your spirit keeps whispering, something is not right. You feel it in your skin, you feel it in your breath, and even when no one is looking, you still feel seen. It's not just people you're sensing, it's an energy, a pressure, something spiritual, trying to throw you off. And if no one ever told you this before, let me be the first to say, you're not crazy. You're being watched for a reason. They don't stalk you because you're weak. They stalk you because you're dangerous to everything they built on illusion. You've crossed a threshold, and they felt it before you even had words to explain. There's something inside you that broke free. Something ancient. Something that no longer responds to the rules of this world. And now that your light is harder to control, they're pushing harder to interrupt it. Through glances, through noises, through disruptions so subtle, yet so persistent, it makes you question your own peace. But deep down, you know that something bigger is happening, and that this pressure is not random. It's spiritual warfare in disguise. That's why this message found you now. Because I'm going to walk with you into what's really going on beneath this invisible harassment. You'll understand why they fear you, what they're truly trying to manipulate, and most importantly, how to stand unshakable in the middle of it all. There is power in naming what they hoped you'd never see. So if you've ever experienced this silent battle, stay with me to the end. And if your soul already knows this truth, write in the comments, I see, and I won't go back to sleep. And please, like this video if it's already speaking to your spirit, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss the revelations that are coming. Because what you're about to hear may explain everything they never wanted you to understand. They call it gangstalking, but what most people don't understand is that this isn't just a physical tactic, it's a spiritual mechanism. When your soul awakens, your frequency begins to disturb the systems built on illusion. It's not about people following you, it's about energies aligning to interfere with your light. This kind of stalking is not random. It's designed to disorient you just enough to make you doubt what you've begun to see. You didn't ask for this visibility, but your very existence, your clarity, your refusal to be part of the unconscious programming, that's what triggered it. When a soul breaks through the veil, it becomes a threat to the structures that kept everyone else asleep. The feeling of being watched, even when you're alone, is not paranoia. It's sensitivity. It's discernment. You're feeling the pressure of systems that have noticed your signal has changed. You've become someone they can't predict, and when they can't control you, they have to watch you. Just like the prophet Elisha in the Bible, when the king of Syria thought there was a traitor in his own army, because Elisha was hearing every secret plan spoken in private, you too have become someone whose spiritual reach threatens dark agendas. And the same way they sent an army to capture Elisha, forces are trying to surround you in the spiritual realm, not because you're weak, but because your clarity is too dangerous to ignore. They'll never say it out loud, but your very presence disrupts the unconscious field. You walk into a place and suddenly someone gets irritated, another shifts their body, someone else avoids your eyes. The atmosphere doesn't know how to absorb your frequency. This is what happens when the veil begins to tear. Those still bound to the matrix sense it, and they react. And some, unfortunately, serve as unconscious agents of the system, tasked, without even knowing, to distract, delay, or discredit you. But none of this is truly about you. It's about the power within you that started to radiate in ways you didn't even notice. That glow, invisible to you, but unbearable to the old system, is what's being tracked. You must understand. Manipulation doesn't always come with words. Sometimes it comes in silence, in tension, in strange disruptions at the exact moment you are about to receive a breakthrough. The plan is subtle, because if it were obvious, you'd see through it immediately. So it comes through patterns, repeated faces in odd places, strange glitches in your day, small frustrations that snowball into emotional fatigue. The real aim? Not to hurt your body, but to lower your vibration, to tire your spirit, to get you to question your intuition just enough that you stop trusting it. But here's the truth. The moment you name it, the spell begins to break. You may be wondering, why me? Why does this keep happening to people who are simply trying to walk in truth? Because you're not just walking in truth, you're carrying it. And when truth is embodied, it shakes systems at their roots. The enemy of truth is never passive. It doesn't just watch you grow, it moves to prevent it. But the resistance you're experiencing isn't confirmation of failure. It's confirmation of transformation. You're no longer blending in. You're no longer digestible. And now, the spiritual alarms have gone off. They know you can't be silenced the old way. So now, they try to drain your clarity, delay your decisions, and disturb your peace, hoping you'll back down. There's something very few people talk about, but you've probably felt it already. The moment you begin to awaken, your life enters a strange distortion field. People you once trusted begin to behave differently. Spaces you once loved start to feel hostile. And the truth is, it's not because you changed in a bad way. It's because your perception shifted. And now, the rooms you once fit in can no longer hold you. This gang-stalking experience is less about people targeting you and more about the system reacting to your escape. You slipped through the cracks, and now they're scrambling to pull you back. But what they don't realize is you're already out, and that scares them more than anything else. The goal has never been to hurt your body. It's to confuse your spirit. Because once your spirit is confused, your discernment weakens. And when discernment weakens, you begin to ask questions that reopen the doors you already closed. That's what this manipulation is really after. To make you second-guess the deliverance you already walked through. To convince you that maybe you're just sensitive, emotional, unstable. But the enemy is a liar, and you're not going backwards. You are being targeted because you're already free in ways they never thought you'd be. And that freedom is irreversible. You see, the real danger for them isn't your words, it's your presence. Because your presence carries something unshakable now. They can't explain why you unsettle them, but you do. And this is the root of the manipulation. They want to break your stillness. The enemy doesn't need to fight you with visible weapons if he can get inside your head. If he can make you doubt your clarity, you'll surrender without a war. This is why the stalking is emotional. It's energetic. It's designed to be quiet enough that you blame yourself, but loud enough to exhaust your spirit. They need you tired. Because when you're tired, you hesitate. And when you hesitate, you delay the breakthrough that was already yours. You may have noticed it, this strange fog that shows up right before your next step. You're about to make a decision, and suddenly, confusion. You were clear just yesterday, but now you're drained. That's not just you. That's interference. They track your progress and release resistance when you're about to move. It comes through distractions, mental clutter, even emotional triggers from people close to you. It's not that they're always aware of it. Some are being used without knowing, but the pattern reveals the truth. The moment you try to elevate, the invisible resistance intensifies. Not because you're wrong, but because you're getting it right. You have to understand something most never do. This system doesn't waste its energy. It only stalks what threatens its foundation, which means you've become a disruption, a vibration that doesn't fit the mold. And when that happens, the old system doesn't invite you back. It tries to destabilize you. Like the Pharisees who followed Jesus not to learn, but to trap him, you are being watched not because they admire you, but because your existence confronts them. They can't keep you in the dark anymore, so now they try to overload your light. But your soul was born for this pressure, and what was meant to crush you is now making you sharper. The game is simple. If they can't stop you from rising, they'll try to make you question why you rose in the first place. They want you to believe that your growth came with a price you can't carry, that this new version of you is too isolated, too misunderstood, too unstable. But this is the ancient trap, the lie that whispers, "Go back to who you were. It was safer there." But you weren't safe. You were just silent. You were invisible. You were digestible. Now, they can't predict you. They can't mold you. They can't manipulate you. And that's why the game changed. In the spiritual realm, you've crossed over into visibility. Not the kind of visibility that gets likes or applause, but the kind that makes you detectable to dark frequencies. You became unrecognizable to the old timeline. You're no longer functioning under fear, shame, or smallness. And that's what triggered the warfare. They didn't come for who you were. They came because of who you're becoming. And when you realize that, you stop fighting from a place of panic and start walking in quiet authority. The kind of authority that doesn't shout, but shifts rooms. The truth is, what they fear most is not your voice. It's your vibration. They fear the silence you carry, the stillness you protect. Because when a soul becomes still, it becomes aligned. And when it's aligned, it becomes untouchable. That's why the noise has been louder lately. That's why the distractions have been closer. It's because you're too close to something they can't undo. You're stepping into a version of yourself that no longer plays by their rules. And they know it. This is why they've been watching. Not to learn you, but to stop you. And yet, they still don't understand. What watches you can't touch you. What manipulates around you still can't enter the place you guard within. That's the part they'll never reach, because it's the part God sealed, the part He awakened. And once it's awakened, it cannot be put back to sleep. Here's what most people miss. You're not being stalked because you're fragile. You're being stalked because you slipped out of the program without them noticing. And now, they're trying to catch up. The enemy didn't attack you on your way up. He attacked you when he realized you were already out. What you're feeling isn't the beginning of something going wrong. It's the aftershock of something going right. The system is late to your escape. They sensed the break too late. And now they scramble to recontain what's already been released. But it's too late. Your light has already leaked into places they can't seal again. You've become something they can't track in the usual ways. Because what you carry now isn't just knowledge, it's embodiment. You didn't just learn the truth, you became it. And that shift is irreversible. This is what they fear. The ones who can no longer be bought, controlled, or seduced by the noise. The ones who no longer react, but respond with stillness. When you stopped playing their game, you exited their map. And now, you are no longer a player. You're a mirror. And they can't stand what they see when you don't flinch, when you don't panic, when you don't beg. Remember how Jesus walked into towns and demons cried out before he said a word? That's the energy you're carrying now. A presence that disturbs everything false, just by standing still. You don't need to expose them. Your clarity does it on its own. You don't need to fight them. Your integrity already feels like warfare to those who thrive on deception. That's why they follow you, not to learn, but to hope you slip. They're waiting for you to doubt yourself so they can jump in. But you've matured, and their old traps no longer fit you. The version of you they designed their weapons for no longer exists. This is your turning point. When you realize the stalking isn't about control, it's about panic, not yours. Theirs. They're afraid of how free you are, how unshaken you've become. And now that they see they can't touch your soul, they're targeting your peace, because that's the only part left that still reacts. But if you protect your peace, like you protected your truth, you become unreachable. The war ends not because they stop trying, but because you stop responding. Everything in the spiritual realm is about access. They can't touch what they can't reach, and they can't reach what's been reclaimed. You've reclaimed your mind. You've reclaimed your voice. You've reclaimed your identity. And the more you stay aligned with that truth, the less their distractions work. You begin to see the patterns for what they are. Desperate attempts to pull you into battles that no longer belong to you. And when you don't engage, their power dissolves. The power isn't in reacting, it's in recognizing. Once you recognize the pattern, it loses its grip. Once you see the game, you no longer fall for it. And now, your discernment has risen to a level where even their subtle tactics become obvious. What used to confuse you now confirms what you've outgrown. That's the gift of this warfare. It reveals how far you've come, and it reminds you that the silence you walk in now is not emptiness. It's divine strategy. It's spiritual immunity. It's authority earned in the fire. The stalking didn't start because you made a mistake. It started because you finally moved differently. Your silence started to say more than your words. Your boundaries started to radiate louder than your presence. You stopped explaining yourself, and that quiet strength unsettled every system that used to feed on your emotional leakage. They don't know how to interact with this version of you, the version that doesn't need validation, that doesn't shrink, that no longer walks into rooms asking for permission to exist. This is why the noise intensified. It's not just surveillance, it's resistance to your elevation. But here's the beauty of it. The more they press in, the more you realize you've already left their reach. Because the moment you stopped needing their approval, they lost their grip. There's a kind of spiritual clarity that becomes offensive to those who are still operating in distortion. When you start seeing clearly, they don't need you to say anything. Your eyes, your stillness, your presence, it exposes them. And this is where manipulation tries to creep back in, wearing new disguises, old habits disguised as comfort, familiar voices disguised as concern, chaos disguised as coincidence. But discernment is your shield now, and you've earned it through fire. The kind of fire that taught you to sit in discomfort and not run back to what once broke you. The kind of fire that burned away everything that wasn't truly you. And now, your vision may cost you peace with the world, but it brings peace with your soul. You're not paranoid, you're prophetic. And that's a hard truth to carry. Because in a world that worships logic, spiritual perception is often mocked. But even Jesus was told he had a demon, simply because he spoke from a realm they didn't understand. The prophets were labeled madmen too. So when they say you're too sensitive, or that you read too much into things, smile. That's not an insult, it's confirmation. You're not imagining what you feel. You're just ahead of what they can perceive. And this gift isn't for pride, it's for protection. God gave you spiritual eyes not to be suspicious of everything, but to be surrendered to nothing that tries to own your spirit. And now, more than ever, you must protect your clarity, because clarity is your compass. It tells you what's yours and what's noise. And they know that. That's why the interference has been so strategic. Not to destroy your body, but to fog your inner GPS, to make you forget that you were already on course. But here's the grace in all of this. Every time they tried to block you, they accidentally trained you. Every time they tried to trap you, they revealed their pattern. And now, you're no longer just surviving this spiritual harassment. You're decoding it. What once felt like an attack now feels like confirmation. A backwards kind of validation. That you're walking exactly where you're supposed to. You've become a spiritual anomaly, someone who no longer fits in the predictable metrics of control. And so, they watch. They watch not because they admire, but because they don't understand. They don't understand how you keep standing, how you keep walking, how your light hasn't dimmed even after the pressure. But what they fail to see is that this isn't about you being strong. It's about you being anchored. Anchored in truth. Anchored in the unseen. Anchored in something they can't name because it wasn't given by this world. And that's what makes you unstoppable. You're not running on human approval anymore. You're moving from a divine place that no demon, no manipulator, no distorted system can intercept. The stalking was never random. It was spiritual recognition. The system saw what you carried before you even fully realized it yourself. It marked you not as a threat, but as a shift. And shifts must be monitored, watched, opposed, because they carry the power to ripple outward and break strongholds in others. That's what you are, a breaker, a carrier of codes that destabilize deception. You think you're just living your truth, walking in integrity, protecting your peace. But that simple obedience is collapsing invisible chains all around you. They feel it, even if they can't explain it, and so they stalk, not knowing they're only confirming that the system they serve is already shaking beneath your steps. This is the deeper truth. What's stalking you is also exposing itself. Every manipulation tactic, every moment of tension, every strange encounter is revealing where the weakness is. Not in you, but in the structure that's trying to intimidate you. This is your invitation to step into discernment without fear, to recognize the game without playing it. You don't need to run. You don't need to prove. All you need is to stay in alignment. Because when you're aligned, even their surveillance turns into your stage. Their plan becomes your proof, and their resistance becomes the platform where God shows exactly why you were set apart. Let them watch. Let them wonder. Let them send their confusion, their projections, their interference. Because none of it has the power they think it does. Not unless you give them access. And that's the turning point. When you stop granting access. When you stop leaking energy. When you stop letting fear interpret what's actually a spiritual upgrade. You were never meant to be understood by systems built on control. You were designed to reveal their limits just by being who you are. So if the watching continues, let it. If the strange interruptions happen again, observe them. But don't absorb them, because your inner space is sacred, and they only come close when they know that something holy is forming inside you. This is the point where you stop surviving the warfare and start transcending it. You stop analyzing their tactics and start walking in the quiet confidence of someone who knows they've already won. You start waking up with peace that no longer depends on external validation. You breathe differently. You speak with less urgency. You walk into rooms with a kind of gravity that makes even your silence feel like a statement. Not because you're trying to be powerful, but because you've finally surrendered the need to be small. And that's what breaks the cycle. When you no longer respond the way you used to, they no longer know how to reach you. From here forward, your assignment is no longer to react, but to reign. Not with ego, not with pride, but with spiritual intelligence, with presence, with discernment. Because now you see the pattern. You've traced the energy. You've lived the confusion and survived the fog. And still, you rose. Still, you walk with integrity. Still, you protect your heart without closing it. That's power. That's maturity. That's authority born from alignment, not ambition. And from this alignment comes the restoration of everything they tried to manipulate. Your clarity, your rhythm, your voice. It all returns, and it comes back, refined. You are not who you were when this battle started. You're not as reactive, not as anxious, not as easily shaken. What they didn't realize is that their stalking built something in you that silence couldn't. They taught you how to detect, how to guard, how to move with purpose. They thought they were stopping your progress, but they were training your discernment. And now, you carry a stillness that's more powerful than any performance. A knowing that doesn't scream, but settles. A peace that confuses the ones who thought you'd fall. You didn't fall. You got anchored. And from that place, everything changes. So let this be your reminder. You were never meant to fit in their system. You were never meant to be understood by their logic. You were born to be a mystery to them, because what you carry didn't come from them. It came from a place they can't access. And that's why they watch. That's why they test. That's why they fear. Because your existence challenges every lie they were taught to believe. And now, you no longer need to explain that. You just need to embody it. Because when you embody it, you create a frequency others can feel. And that is how awakening spreads. So if this message spoke to you, not just to your mind, but to your spirit, leave a comment below and declare it. I am untouchable in the light. Let your words set a tone for the next chapter of your journey. Please, like this video if it confirmed what you've been discerning in silence. Subscribe to this channel if you're walking this path and want more messages that meet you where you are. And don't forget to activate the notification bell so you never miss a new video, because this space is for souls like you and to those who have supported this mission through Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you. Your support allows us to continue sharing these truths with more clarity, more depth, and more reach. If you'd like to join them, the link is in the first pinned comment. You were never the problem. Your perception was just too evolved for their comfort. And that's something they could never admit out loud. So instead, they followed. They tested. They mimicked concern while secretly hoping you'd implode. But the truth is, their pressure only revealed your roots. They expected a collapse. What they got was a rebirth. And this rebirth came not with fire and noise, but with stillness and alignment. That's what makes you powerful now. You no longer need to prove anything to anyone, because your growth isn't loud, it's embodied. And once that happens, no manipulation can reach you, unless you invite it. So the next time you feel the eyes, the tension, the pattern, smile. Not because it feels good, but because now you understand. They're not targeting you. They're reacting to the frequency that healed you. What they see is what they've lost, their own access to the clarity you now walk in. And some may try to pull you back. Others may try to bait you with old emotions, unfinished wounds, or familiar distractions. But you've passed that test. You've outgrown that cycle. You've stopped asking for peace from systems designed to drain it. And now, the only thing left to do is keep walking, in wholeness, in silence, and in power. And if this message is your confirmation, don't let it end here. Watch the video that's on your screen right now. I truly believe the next truth waiting for you is already there. Or better yet, spend some time marathoning the playlist. Let your spirit be fed, layer by layer, until every doubt is replaced by knowing. So stay anchored, stay aware, stay free, because you are not alone.